From the shores to the jungles, we're in the thick of it now. Lost Caverns of Ixalan is here, and with it, new kindreds, new deck lists, brand new cards, a new draft environment. We just released the State of the Meta Week 0, along with the Draft Guide Week 0. Go check that out if you haven't already on the MTG Rebellion YouTube channel. And I have to tell y'all, this was honestly the most fun I've had during Early Access. So much fun. I can't wait, honestly, to dive into this set. But we're here today, discuss our experiences, give our takes on our favorite cards, new decks. Let's get ready for Week 1 Ixalan. Welcome to MTG Rebelcast, episode 28. This one's about the Ixalan release. Let's get into it. All right, so with us now today are Optimal MTG, Griffin Rider, and with us, sort of kind of, new to the cast here, Salt Miner Chad. I'm excited to have you here with us today. How are each of you? First of all, I want to get with Salt Miner Chad because he's kind of new around here. How are you? And I just want to point out, you put out some really awesome content recently. I thought it was freaking hilarious. How are you feeling about it, and how are you doing today?
Well, thanks for the introduction. I'm pretty excited. I hadn't ever been streaming and into this environment necessarily, just played Magic for a long time. And so this was my first real dig at trying to get some content out there. And I think I did a good job. I was expecting kind of a low hit rate, and I think I far surpassed what I was expecting, and plan on putting out some more. Try to be funny, try to bring a little bit of lightness to the Magic world. So.
Hell yeah! True to your name, Salt Miner. You definitely mine some salt. I saw a couple of the comments. I just want to ask you real quick, how did you think of doing a short form format like this? How did you come up with the idea, and when's the next one coming out?
Man, I got to give a little bit of credit to Darkstream there, or Dark Rictus. The two of us combined powers to be able to come up with that. I think we were just kind of bullshitting and talking about, and
yeah.
we kind of went, what if we just talk crap about the 10 mythics they've dropped? And we put together a quick hit list real quick and just kind of mashed it. And then I just went and grabbed the stuff off the internet and learned a whole new program with DaVinci Resolve and put it all together. It was exciting. It was pretty fun. So I've condensed how long it's going to take me now, and I've almost got the second one out. I think the intention is at least one a week at the pace that I'm going to be able to produce it at least.
Sounds awesome, man. I really look forward to it. I know our fans are going to look forward to it. I think they took to it pretty well. It did really good numbers for a first video of the format, so we'll see how the next one does, but I'm really optimistic about it. All right, so I really want to get right into the meat of this episode, but first let's talk to Optimal MTG. Optimal, you're a frequent guest. You were part of Early Access again with the Rebellion. How are you today? And just kind of give us, what are your initial takes on this set? Is it good or bad?
Thank you for having me again. Always greatly appreciate to be here. I'm all right. On and off with the streaming thing, but trying to get back in now with Ixalan rolling around. But yeah, it was great. I got to participate in early access again. This time I decided to do something different. I was trying to do a 24-hour stream thing. Only made it to 16 and a half hours, so there is a glaring VOD on my Twitch channel for 16 and a half hours if you want to watch that straight, if you want. But it's going to take me a long time to sift through that to make content for YouTube. So I'm not looking forward to it, but we're there. But I am considering trying to make that more of a regular thing. We'll see. Oh, yeah. Maybe I could cement myself into that sphere of long streaming videos for Magic, because you don't have many of them, right? At least I don't think.
Not in best of 3 formats, especially. I think like over 80% of it's best of 1 right now. The content out there. All right, cool. I look forward to you digging through that early access and finding us the best moments. And you'll have a chance later if you want to talk about some of those moments. Let's turn it over to Griffin Rider. Yo, fellow guild mage. How are you? I know it's been a few weeks since you've been on the show. I love having you here. How are you doing? And what's your take on Ixalan, good or bad?
I am fantastic. Wrapping up a if we count Thursday, a 4-day weekend of just playing Magic. Early access was a ton of fun. Tried something new. We were cracking packs while we were playing. So it's
Oh yeah.
there
Pull
was a
anything
little bit
good?
of learning curve in the beginning, but eventually I got the rhythm of being able to open some packs and then take my game action and then open up some more packs. And we had SCG Pittsburgh over the weekend.
Oh
I get to
shoot.
sit down and play some Pioneer and play some Modern and get out and just enjoy being in the scene and being a part of Magic again.
Oh yeah.
But yeah,
There's a
overall, I think the set itself is a great set in a vacuum. Obviously, we're gonna see just how much it affects 2.5 years of other sets that it has to fight for space with, but
yeah.
I think by itself it's a great set.
Oh yeah. Well, did you pull anything good out of those packs?
I don't know what's really going to be good and what isn't out of Ixalan yet, but
Fair.
I did hit some of the Lord of the Rings holiday packs, and I got a new Bowmaster. I got a new One Ring, so those
Sweet.
two on their own made it a good box.
Oh yeah. I know that I don't want to harsh your mellow because I thought about buying some of that product and I love that they reprinted some of the more like pricey stuff. I love it when they do that. I know that might be a hot take to a part of the community because there were so many on social media today who were just like angry that they did this holiday set, not because of like product fatigue or the usual arguments, but because their one rings and their orcish bowmasters and a lot of the high money rares were like dropping in price. How do you feel about that, Griffin?
I love the chance to just have another shot at pulling good cards and having them out there in the market and available. I think really the biggest issue I can see people having is that the special surge foil treatment that was just super rare in the first set. You
Mhm.
got like 2 or 3 of them in every single collector pack this time around. So what
Wow.
felt special isn't quite as special. But they
Yeah.
replaced it with these illegible movie trippy poster treatments that
Okay.
it is what it is. There, we'll leave it at that.
All right. Fair enough. No, fair enough. But thank you for coming aboard. Thank you for being a part of this episode in particular. So let's get right into it. I want to ask each of you, basically for your top 3 cards from Lost Caverns of Ixalan. Now, for this top 3, it can be for whatever reason. You don't really have to justify it, but if you'd like to give a justification, talk to us about the card. I would really appreciate it. Because even though I was a part of early access, I don't feel like I memorized or really got to play with enough of the set yet. So it sucks that one of my big fans, Gilbot9000, who's always in my chat and one of my moderators, was talking about how they really need to have early access like they do for fighting games, where they have it for like a full weekend or 3 days to really give you a good impression and work out some bugs. But Arena devs, I praise them for their work, but that's just not how Arena is set up, and I don't know why that is. But I would have loved to have at least had an extra day with all the cards. So I want to see if we could get a big sample size here. What are your top 3 cards? I want to start with the newbie, Salt Miner Chad.
All right, so I really have enjoyed playing with Breaches. I did not think this card was going to be that great. Holy moly, this card is fantastic. With other pirates, it is an absolute house. So it's a 2 and a red for a legendary goblin pirate with first strike and 3/3. Already pretty decent stats. And whenever a pirate you control attacks, any pirate, choose one that hasn't been chosen this turn. It's got 3 options. So create a treasure token, target creature can't block this turn, or exile the top card of your library and you can play it this turn. So card advantage, mana ramping, also puts an artifact into play, and this is relevant, very relevant in this set, and then making it so that you can get through. A lot of them are flyers anyway, but just to be able to pick their big blocker off and tell him he can't block this turn, absolutely amazing. That card blew me away at how good it was. It played. Next, I really enjoyed the Everflowing Well, which I'll have some stories about later. But Everflowing Well is 2 and a blue for an artifact, legendary artifact that mills 2 cards, then draw 2 cards. And then if you have 8 permanents in your graveyard during your upkeep, you're going to flip it, and it becomes a legendary land that taps for a blue. And if you cast a permanent spell with it, target permanent you control becomes a copy of the spell until the end of turn. I was using it in a Descend deck or a Lost Souls deck. And so I was dropping big Lost Souls like 16/16 or 16/17. And then it would make my map token into a 16/17 that can attack that turn. Then I was sacking the map token to the Obnixilis and having a 17 loyalty Obnixilis. It's impressive. I can't wait to really experiment with this card and find out some of the more like, whoa, using this card in that way is crazy. So that card I'm very, very excited for. It's good draw. It's good mill. It's moderate mill, but it's good draw. And then to add the mana ramp, if you have any kind of graveyard manipulation, if you're putting cards in the graveyard, you can turn that thing over. You can have 7 mana on turn 6. And that is pretty good for a blue deck. So there's some things there. And then lastly, the Trumpeting Carnosaur, again, a card I didn't think that it was going to be that good. In play, though, it's impressive. Allowing you to have a late game, but then also being able to get rid of it if you need to early is huge. And that 3 damage is nothing to scoff at in this format. Deals with a lot of creatures, as we know from virtue of persistence.
Yeah.
So three can get it done. So that card was impressive to me, and I got some other cards on the radar, but those are my 3 that I'm like most excited about and have seen in play and are very powerful cards.
Oh yeah, dude. And Breaches is definitely one of those on my radar as well. I know we talked about it in the State of the Meta. I think it made one of our top 5 lists, but yeah, like just that Red's gonna want that. It truly is. All right, Optimal. Give us your top 3. What have you got for us?
Overall, I'm not really impressed by this, unfortunately, by standard perspectives. Obviously, Cavern of Souls is going to be universally adopted, right? Because there's a lot of creature-based decks of what do we call it? Kindred type decks in standard that just needed that extra push to get past Make Disappear, right? For the most part.
Sure.
So Cavern of Souls, obviously, we all know this card is going to be good. Like it's not news. Other than that, though, like I feel like the format's just going to become either it's just 5 color beans, Esper Legends, or just hyper aggressive decks trying to go under at this point, right? Which will most of the time get nullified by Sunfall. Mm. So cards that intrigue me. Mm-hmm. I have a couple. I don't have 3, unfortunately, but I have a couple. So I really like. I've really been interested by Squirming Emergence, the new reanimate spell, colors black green, and then it brings a creature from your graveyard back into play based on the number of permanents that you have in your graveyard, because it is the send, right? So if you have 7 permanents in your graveyard, you can bring back Atraxa, basically.
Yeah.
The other card that's impressed me is Twists and Turns. Mm-hmm. Not necessarily for, the builds that you see probably with the Simic Merfolk decks where they're trying to like do the cute little explorer aspects. I think overall, I do enjoy the idea of it being an engine that if you get enough lands into play, it turns into the opposite of Search for Azcanta, right? Instead of looking for non-creatures, you're looking for creatures on the flip side, but also more or less the control you get when you can scry before you explore. So you're not always hitting duds like lands, but you can manufacture what you want to hit whenever you want, essentially, which I think is very powerful.
Yeah.
The question is the format going to be slow enough to be used with it? Possibly not. But we have to see how things balance out, right?
Yeah.
I guess one other card that's really intrigued me is what's it called? Sanguist Evangelist.
Sanguine Evangelist, yeah.
The 2 and a white, 2/1 with Battle Cry. I think Battle Cry is something that's been missing from Standard quite a bunch. So I do like the inclusion here. It's actually surprised me, especially with the Go White decks mono white, where you just have like 10 1/1s. Oh, now they're 10 2/1s. Have fun, right?
Yeah.
It kind of feels like a mini Hero Blade hold. I don't want to be very hyperbolic about that, but this just kind of the vibes I get from it, which is interesting. Again, will it push humans or any of these decks over the top? Maybe not. But it is a new tool. It's a nice new tool, that alongside Warden on the Inner Sky. Right?
Okay, yeah. Yeah, the 1-drop. Yeah, I think both of those cards, at least probably the former, the Sanguine Evangelist, made one of our top 5 lists in that video, and I think for good reason as well. Battle Cry, possibly you stick a bunch of 3-drops in Esper mid-range, and it somehow makes the deck even better. I don't know, but that's definitely one that I want to toy with and see week 1 where it goes. Griffin Rider, talk to us about your top 3, and feel free to comment on anything that Optimal just said.
So the cards that really impressed me from pre-release or early access or whatever we want to call it, all center around the Orzhov sack deck. So our 2-drop is Fanatical Offering, which we sack a creature to draw 2 cards and make a map token. We'll see where the map tokens are at. But the thing with this deck is both of your 1-drops are sack fodder. You either sack Market Gnome to draw an extra card, so you're basically getting 3 cards off of 1 sack, or you're sacking the Greedy Freebooter, which lets you scry and make a treasure token. So you either get an extra card or you're ramping. So, and then from there, we go into the interaction between Bartolome and Vito, where over the course of 1 turn cycle, if you have enough sack fodder, and Bartolome being a free sack outlet, you can drain your opponent of 4 life. So that's what, an 8 life swing. You'll make 2 4/3 flying vampires. Or are they flying? Flying demon vampires. And Bartolome is up to an 8/7 at that point. So you can present a very intimidating board state by turn 4.
Oh yeah. I love it. You call it Griffin Rider's Big Sack. I love the idea of that deck. Oh man. Bartolome is one of those cards that surprised me, but Vito being back, like
Vito's back.
Vito's back. Salt Miner, did you want to comment on anything that's been said so far?
Yeah, the Sanguine Evangelist also works really well with the same deck that Griffin was just talking about. Absolutely insane. Creates a creature as it comes in and a creature as it leaves. Very, very good. I really like the Sanguine Evangelist with the Anim Pakal, the 1000th Moon. It's a 1/2 human legendary creature, and whenever you attack with 1 or more non-gnome creatures, you get to put a +1/+1 counter on her and create X plus 1/1 colorless gnomes that are equal to the 1/1s that she has on her, and they're attacking right away. And so having her with the Sanguine Evangelist seems pretty potent. Also, Sanguine Evangelist works with Pia. So I'm looking at kind of messing around with something with Pakal and looking at Naya, because there's no reason not to use the questing druid. The mana base is so good right now for Standard. So I'm pretty excited about those cards. The Sanguine Evangelist is a very, very good card.
Hell yeah. So That seems to be the one intersection between us right now, is that we all we're looking at Sanguine Evangelist. I'm gonna call that the VIP right now. I think it just slots into quite a few things. And for the sack deck, I'm thinking about going Mardu myself. I'm tempted to just adapt the Anvil deck into white and see where it goes. I don't know. I wanna try it out because you got Vran, you got Braids, you got several other pieces in black, so it's tempting to want to go that way. And then of course Mardu's also got vampires. That kindred has built up and built up and built up since Crimson Vow. So there's a lot of different cards that you can use with that one. All right. So speaking of decks that we want to play, I want to ask each of you, if your life depended on it, you had to win an event, you had to at least top 8 it, and you're looking at the standard meta week 1 based on how you feel about it, how you think it's going to go. I'll start with Optimal. Optimal, what is your deck for standard week 1?
I started to get really high on the fairies deck. I do like it when attacking the Beanstalk deck, just because the counter spells line up very well against it, especially with the tempo play. And then against Esper Legends, it's kind of give or take. As long as you have an answer against Rafine, I think fairies goes a long way. So yeah, you know what? I've just convinced myself. I'll take fairies. I'll take the knot.
Dimir Fairies is pretty decent. I've been playing it actually on ladder this lame duck week. And it's been, I use Ego Drain in the 1-drop slot. You can get rid of a lot of things with that. It's pretty good against the Beanstalk decks. Pretty good against Esper mid-range. And then Spell Stutter can, in that deck, be a much better counter spell than Make Disappear. So, yeah, man. Dimir Fairies is a thing. It was a thing on our tier list back in Wild's Beldrain, and who knows? I mean, like, everybody's looking left. You might do something over here on the right with a deck that nobody expects. So yeah, that could be a contender.
I do have one more thing to say though.
Go ahead.
It will really depend on also how many decks adopt Cavern of Souls and for what reason. So
you don't get to know. That's the beauty of this. You don't know.
Well, I'm saying in the dark. In the dark, I'm on fairies. But if I've got a Beanstalk, for example, can immediately go turn 4, play Cavern, play Traxa, no deck is safe. So
yeah, that's the big elephant in the room, guys. I was waiting for somebody to bring it up. Domain being the number 1 deck in the standard meta. Salt Miner, you got something to say on it? Do you really think it's going to be a domain meta? How do you feel?
Oh, absolutely. I don't know that domain wins everything. Just as always, domain has some clunky draws, as we all know, but can beat any deck in the format. And as long as that is a possibility, then people will play it. Much the same reason we all play red. It can beat any deck in the format with the right draw. And so Domain's gonna do some things. If I had to put my money where my mouth was for a top 8 at a tournament, I would run Domain, shifting into a couple, take the Mirrex out and add some Cavern of Souls. Hold the Cavern of Souls till I drop the Atraxa or the Herd Migration and go to town. Or not the Herd Migration, but the Cavern of Souls till I hit the Atraxa. Or if it's really critical, even the Archangel. But I'm trying to sit on that all the way until I play Atraxa.
That makes sense. I think that's honestly the smartest move you can make week 1, but I don't think that's a hot take at all. Griffin, Griffin, chime in. What are you playing week 1 if you have to play standard?
Yeah, Salt Miner just took the words right out of my mouth. It's domain. It's slotting in the caverns instead of Mirrex. But I mean, I guess if I'm not doing that, and I know the meta's probably going to be heavy into domain, I'm gonna run mono red and try and just get way out ahead of that curve, and do the mono red thing and get 20 damage in by turn 3 before they have a chance to build that board state that domain needs.
Oh yeah, in in line with that, Griffin, what are your favorite cards in mono red right now? Either from the new set or not. Is there anything new though that speaks to you?
I haven't I haven't got to play with it a whole lot. Obviously, as Salt Miner brought up, Breaches is probably the best new red card.
Yeah.
But other than that, I'm doing everything I can to find card draw in red, and then just power it out and burn through.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Monastery Swift Spear, the prowess game. That's where I like to go with red. But of course, I mean, there's other angles you can take on too. There's Godric celebration mode right now. Is the big thing. Battle hamster or battle mouse. I forget. One of those. It's a battle rodent. Anyway. Yeah.
I got one more. So if I were to play a new deck though, and I was hedging my bets, saying Domain's going to be dominant and heavy, I'm going dinos. I'm going underneath it. The dinos can get away with playing only one dino, two dinos a turn, and or not having a giant board state and still doing a massive amount of damage. So you can get away with forcing a sweeper out of just one dino. And I was able to get underneath it on Dark Stream's Domain. So I know for a fact that it can get in under Domain. So there's something to be said there, and I'll be damned if it ain't fun.
Talk to us about early access for you. Were there any like really memorable plays, any highlights that you want to discuss or talk about?
Yeah, I had a couple highlights. I even wrote a couple of them down for that reason. But let's start with I played Crokies as one of my like first matches, and he was running the Grixis sacrifice deck that I kind of made mention to earlier, and he hit me with a turn 2 Ancient one, turn 3 Obnixilis, and he drew himself 7 cards. So he found himself a Shieldred for turn 4 and another Ancient one and Obnixilis for turn 5. So he made me draw 7 cards on turn 5 with a Shieldred on board. It was 21 damage. It was an impressive little.
That is impressive.
Yeah, I had someone turn a Millennium Calendar over on me with an Azorius control deck. And like I said, the Pirates tempo, it was outstanding. It was very fun to play. Everyone was kind of playing dinos, and they only play one dino a turn, and you were kite sailing it, and they couldn't do anything about the kite sail. And so the kite sail was amazing. That card where you kind of Vraska a creature every turn, turn them into a treasure, and just keep coming through, and they just end up sacking dinos for bigger dinos so that they can try to mitigate all the flying damage, and I just got in, tempoed them out. It was pretty cool. So I had a lot of fun playing with the Pirates, and that's kind of one of my week 1 builds. I'm bringing that to the LGS.
Oh yeah. I
already got it built out.
What is it about Arena versus Paper where you take more risks in Paper, right? Like in Arena, you're just like, nah, the algorithm's not going to let me win with this. But in Paper, you're like, nobody expects me to play Pirates, man.
Yeah, it's wild cards too. Wild cards cost a lot more in the big scheme of things, especially when you're running some jank and you can spend 50 cents a rare, $1 a rare.
That's exactly what it is. You're right.
Yeah.
I think Pirates are definitely going to be a good draft slate environment archetype as well, in addition to being 60 card constructible. But hell yeah. Griffin Rider, did you have anybody that you faced that was like really memorable, even if you lost, like it didn't matter, like somebody that you kind of got starstruck facing off against?
This time around wasn't quite as starstruck. I did get to take on Ali Eldrazi, and I believe I beat him on his turn with a Bartolome sack outlet.
Ooh, spicy, I like that.
I think that was the moment that solidified that deck for me. I'm like, okay, this is good.
Yeah. I was just gonna briefly mention I thought against it, but then I thought against that. I used to have an Ali Eldrazi highlight reel on my personal YouTube channel from every time I beat him. Talking about salt mining. Oh man. I took it down eventually though. I didn't want to piss off his fan base too much, but Yeah, man. It feels good when you face your equals, your rivals, people from other teams. I know that's part of the thrill for me is facing off against others, and just even if you lose, putting up a good fight is usually enough to feel proud of myself. And I got a couple of victories, and I took a couple losses. We faced off against Numbskull, and he's a friend of the channel, and I lost, but like it was a long match, and I felt pretty good about it. And best of one, is more of a coin flip than best of three anyway. But and so it's all for fun when I'm playing best of one. I didn't mean to rhyme there. Anyway.
We got one in too, Max, in the ladder
Yep.
on unintentional, and you ran into the pirates.
Yeah, I didn't forget.
Yeah, you're on the highlight reel now.
Nice. Salt Miner's been on my ass all week because during the Rebellion streamer showdown, I had to step in for Luis because Luis was having some problems with the client. So we did 2 matches, and the Esper mid range match with Salt Miner was, you can see it on the VOD, I'm sure, but it was epic. We went all the way to game 3. It was down to the wire. It was epic. And then the domain matchup, it was just like 0-2. I think it was. It just did not work out the way I wanted it to. But I had to mulligan to like 5 the first match, and then after that, I have no excuses.
I got your number this week.
Yeah, I think I milled out actually in that second match. I actually lost by mill.
Yeah, we went all the way.
Yeah, that was crazy. But yeah, I mean that's what we're all about here at the Rebellion, is just improving. Iron sharpens iron, as I always say. So we improve off of facing off against each other and our rivals. It's all about the competitive nature of the game. I have fun competing. I know it's often talked about as a false dichotomy that you can't have fun and compete. Competing is anti-fun, but we're here to prove that wrong. Optimal MTG, I'll let you get in the first final word here. Do you have a final thought on the set, early access in general, anything that we talked about tonight?
I was going to say earlier, you and I played against each other a bunch on ladder, and also our showdown thing, or separate.
That's right. That's right. Do you recall the records on that? Who won those matches?
I think I won all of them, didn't I? Or you might have sneaked one. Maybe.
I think I won one of them in. I got one. I can't. I've just been getting my ass kicked all week, huh, guys? Man, I'm here for it though. But what's your final thought?
Yeah, overall, I mean, the set, like usual, Wizards did a good job with doing the flavor. They're always generally great with the flavor. The limited environment's interesting. I still don't know how I feel about it. I have to do more drafts. It is interesting that you can draft a Caves deck, but it kind of feels similar to Defenders, where you kind of you're going to need the uncommons to really pump it, right? Like you'll need like bat colonies and stuff like that. In terms of constructed, we all know there are cards that will fit into other constructed formats. Cavern of Souls into Standard, Cavern of Souls reprint into Pioneer.
Yep.
We are like Molten Collapse. We'll see play in Pioneer and Modern. The majority, there's a lot of cards with just says Descend already can be in discussion for potential play in Pioneer and Modern. So with just how easy it is to kind of get cards off the board and trigger your Descent, right? Like the black 1/1 Goblin that becomes a 2/2 on turn 1 in Modern because you just sack fetch land, right? So like, I'm not saying that like all hope is lost, but all I'm saying is that the power level of Ixalan 2.0, it's a little. Actually, you know what? I want to. Now that I think about it, I don't know if it's better than the power level of original Ixalan, but it's just a different context. I think the two formats that these two sets will and have existed in are probably going to be vastly different from one another, right? The one back in original Ixalan, unfortunately it was ran through by the Scarab God, Champion of Wits, and stuff like that, right? Whereas this one is going to be ran through by the Beanstalk and tracks that are completely different metagames. So the way that this set feels could have been different in an older format. But I think as for now, you have some cards, they could do some things, but it's not a set that's just gonna like buy 20 cards from this set and you'll hold up in standard. You'll play a couple of these cards, but still the majority of it's gonna be it's gonna be, it's gonna be all like come together by the other sets because there's power level events come before the set. Like, it's wild.
Yeah. I think that's not a hot take either. I think that's pretty true. I think a lot of us here see it that way as well. That relative to the sets prior, this one's definitely going to be good to supplement the decks that are already there. And that was my take. My prediction on the state of the meta week 0 was essentially play some of the same things, just make some incremental changes.
This is a set, if you look at it closely, you can tell this really needed rotation to happen. That's the last thing I wanted to say.
Okay.
I think this set would be better if it was just Shieldred you were competing with, but it's not just Shieldred you're competing with.
I had a feeling you felt that way too. Griffin Rider, go ahead and give us your final thought and comment on anything that we've talked about today.
I think this set is going to do exactly what it needs to do. It's going to give us a chance to catch our breath. It doesn't have any format warping cards in it. It doesn't have anything like Up the Beanstalk that's going to end up warping other formats outside of Standard. We got some good cards we can jam into decks. I think Molten Collapse is probably going to be a sleeper card here. Obviously, Ultimo brought it up, but it's going to see a lot of play in Eternal formats because those decks are all built around big creatures and cheap artifacts, and that card will hit both of them consistently.
Yeah, I'm trying to look at the MTG top 8 Standard and then Pioneer as well. And Rakdos is coming back in Pioneer, is it not? That's wild. It's definitely becoming the
mid-range has had a really good push back into Pioneer recently.
What are you playing in Pioneer, and do you see this set impacting the way that you play at all?
I was playing Saktos over the weekend. I didn't really like the way it felt against the meta. I'll probably pull the deck apart and go back to playing mid-range again. Obviously, it's got new tools. It's got the interaction that I want, as opposed to just hoping I draw into the cards that I need in order to make the damage go off like I need it to. So
fair enough.
Don't know until you start playing the cards, though.
Essentially, that's paper magic. Arena, you can get in a bunch of crap games on the play queue, but paper magic, you got to sit down and play and figure it out. Salt Miner, go ahead and tell us about your final thoughts. Anything that we talked about today.
I am excited about this set. It breathes new life. I think there's always high expectations with sets, and they want it to turn the whole meta upside down. But I think what we want is to not have that, because the power creep is real. And if you got that out of your set, then it's not good. It's not healthy for the meta. I think that Griffin Rider kind of hit the nail on the head there, talking about we got cards that are going to do stuff, but nothing meta shifting, meta breaking. I think that we're going to have something similar to the last set, where a contender comes out from underneath, just like Golgari, and we'll see that happen. That there's descend mechanics that will make their way into a lot of decks. I don't know that Descend is a deck, but the Descend mechanics will make their way into decks. Some of those cards are going to make their way in. A single Whale of the Forgotten inside of some sort of Dimir. It's a very powerful card, but you don't want it early. And so there's things happening like that, and maybe get away with discarding it to a Kaido when you don't have the attacker. So there's ways to get rid of it and fuel it. There's a lot of cards that are like that are going to see some sort of play. I'm pretty excited about the set. I'm always excited to be able to breathe new life into the meta, even if it's just a little bit, even if it's just you playing against scrub decks that are trying all the fun things. I'll be one of those scrub decks like for a lot, and then I'll shift for the pizza box into one of the more metas or something just slightly askew. But I'm excited. Super excited.
Yeah, me too. And I have to say, for my final thought, that I was happy with standard. I wasn't one of the people complaining about standard. We did the stay the metas week after week, and we were able to track over 20 decks over the course of Wilds of Eldraine, which was up from I think 16 the previous set. And so I felt like it was a pretty diverse meta. I felt like even at tier 2, tier 2.5, you could still eke out a top 8 appearance. I felt like that happened a lot. We had quite a few shifts. If we're looking at the current population of decks in event Magic, though, number 1 is Esper Aggro. Esper Aggro, you can sort of think about as Esper Legends per se. Like it's Esper Legends with a few mid-range cards thrown in. Followed up by 4 or 5 color domain at 14%, and then you have Red, and then Azorius, and those are from 18 to 10%. So if the top 4 decks are within an 8% gap, you know, these numbers are rules of thumb. They're not exact sciences, and you ask a different channel their take on what their standard is for a healthy meta, and they'll give you a different answer. Nonetheless, I think I can put forward an argument that says that standard is pretty healthy. Nonetheless, for my final thought and my take on Ixalan, it's actually a pretty conservative take. I think you make small incremental changes. You add a couple of the new cards to the list you're already playing, unless you're just going all in on creature decks that are new. If you're going all in on pirates, dinos, be my guest, because I feel like there's a vacuum for that right now in standard. And I think creature decks got a boost. So, and that's exciting for me as somebody who thinks of myself as like a mono green mage. Like I really love battle states. I really love doing math during Magic. I know that's a hot take, my God. But you know, that's all part of the fun for me. So I'm excited about that set for those reasons. Okay, that's really all the time we have for today. I want to thank each of our guests, Optimal, Griffin Ryder, and Salt Miner Chad. You can check all these dudes out on their respective YouTube and Twitch channels. I know Salt Miner's starting to create some content with us over at the MTG Rebellion YouTube channel. Go check us out there. If you're watching, join. There's a join button. We have 2 levels now at $1 a month, and now the $3 a month Coffee and Grinders level. $3 a month, you actually get access to Darth Rictus's sideboard notes. So until we have somebody fill in and make sideboard guides in whatever format for us, I know I take up so much time with all this content that I make every week and editing that I haven't been able to commit myself to sideboard guides. I know Darth Rictus gives the same reason, so we have those sideboard notes for you in the meantime. All right, so from everybody at the Rebellion, until next time, untap, upkeep, resist.
Resist.
Oh yeah, good night, everybody.
Good night.